I remember a time when people would get excited that a big name studio or publisher announces a new game. Names like Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and Assassin's Creed used to command respect, and even if a release was more divisive than others, they still received very high praises. If you had told me in 2012 that one day people would laugh at how clumsy and vapid a Dragon Age game is, or how cheap and silly an Assassin's Creed title looks, I would have thought you were crazy. Yet here we are.
There's no option not to be transgender.
While other spaces of gaming are blooming like never before, Western AAA gaming is on life support. Single player, multiplayer, 4 players co-op with a shiny season pass, nothing seems to work anymore. These games flop so hard the studio goes on sale as well, or out of business, usually the latter. As a casual AAA games enjoyer, I wonder if there's a chance for a comeback at all. So we'll try to figure that out and answer the question, is AAA gaming too big to succeed? It's no secret that gaming is a $1 billion industry. If you are a venture capitalist or an investment firm, this is your gold rush. A single look at the income report of FIFA or GTA Online would make any investor pop a stiffy. In reality, gaming is not exactly the money printing machine that they had hoped for. Not anymore at least. Video game is not your everyday commodity. Even though it's a product, it's also an experience, sort of like a roller coaster ride. However, you can't really throw money at game development the same way you do with a theme park. Plenty have tried, and we all know what the results are. Looking at the reports about Skulls and Bones, Forspoken or Concord, I was shocked. How did those games cost so much? Forspoken cost $100 million, Concord was $400 million excluding the cost of Sony buying Firefall Studio. Skulls and Bones took Ubisoft 10 years and $850 million to make. And it's not like these studios lack the manpower. They all have hundreds if not thousands of employees, yet year after year we see these huge projects crash and burn like they're being driven by a kick streamer. Even as someone who doesn't have any experience in investing, I have to question the sustainability of this approach. While corporate publishers were burning money, many smaller projects had taken the world by storm at a fraction of the cost. Larian Studio made Baldur's Gate 3 with 300 people and $100 million, and the game made $657 million from Steam sales alone. Core Keeper and Lethal Company were both made by a single person, and those games sold like hotcake. To drive this point home, Black Myth Wukong cost $70 million to make, and is easily one of the best games of the year, with more than 20 million Steam sales. In Game Science, the studio that made Black Myth Wukong had 140 employees. Just because a game has huge investment and thousands of developers behind it, doesn't mean it will become a commercial success. Sometimes, the investment cost would set these games up to fail. They require a monumental success to break even. Look at Concord. Its reception was so bad, Sony had to pull the plug instead of re-releasing it as a free-to-play game. The more lackluster game then rely on predatory practices like dark patterns and price anchoring to nickel and dime gamers just to hit their projected profit for that quarter. Either a game was good but couldn't meet internal sales expectation, or it was bad so the studio turned it into a cash grab, burning their reputation and the audience goodwill for a quick buck. If the last 5 years had taught us anything, it's that this isn't the way. If you carefully observe AAA games, the problem usually starts at the top where the decisions are made. It's easy to tell that these studios and publishers are being led by people who don't know or care about video games. Only someone who doesn't give a damn about gaming would decide to enter the hero shooter market almost a decade too late with the gaming equivalent of a toast sandwich that costs $40. We can dunk on Blizzard all we want, but at least they know how to make the games look good. Let's look at gaming's newest implosion, Ubisoft. They were having a huge comeback in 2018. People loved Far Cry 5, Rainbow Six Siege was making waves, The Crew 2 got great numbers, and that's not counting all the third-party titles that they published that year. Did they do anything with this momentum? Maybe reviving old franchises that are still fan favorites like Rayman or Splinter Cells? Nope, we're doing NFT now. Let's name it Ubisoft Quartz, because of all the money we're gonna squirt out of our fanbase. But don't listen to them, Beavis. If this NFT project didn't work out, the next one will. Hit them with another NFT game, Beavis. They will love it. And so, Ubisoft stealth launched Champion Tactics Grimoria Chronicles. What is that, you ask? I don't know, and I think Ubisoft doesn't either. Time and time again, we see studios doing maneuvers that would put the Ocean Gate submarine to shame. Let's have a studio that, up to that point, has only been making open world RPGs do an MMO. Sounds easy enough, right? You got the open world, just make it multiplayer. So, Bethesda made Fallout 76 under ZeniMax.
All of this just works.
Maybe an older example, BioWare. The studio known for single-player RPG with branching narratives shall do an MMO too, and they made Anthem. How about another one? Rocksteady, the studio famous for top-tier Batman action games, will be sent to the 4-players co-op prison called Killed Justice League. Have them kill the Batman too. The fans are gonna love this, especially since this will be a beloved voice actor's last performance before his passing. Last one I promise, Arcane Austin. The incredible minds behind Prey 2018 will also get to make their own 4-player co-op looter shooter. This would be Redfall. If you take a step back and look at these decisions, it feels like these people are living in a different reality. They're so disconnected with the people they're selling games to, and the worst thing is, it's not that hard to figure out what the players want. Sven Vinker, the CEO of Larian Studios, engages with fans on Twitter a lot. Dan Vavrev, the creative director of Warhorse Studio, he does the same thing as Sven. These guys are not community managers, and they still have a direct communication with their player base, because they know that to sell games, they need to know what their fans want. This circles back to my point at the beginning, that the leadership of AAA studios and publishers don't care about video games or gamers, they care about pleasing investors with the newest money printing method. And if the newest buzzword didn't stick, time to beat the old recognizable IP horse again. Here I have these remakes and reboot, look at all the polygons, aren't they just neat? Now buy the game, dammit. That's the first problem with AAA gaming. They, as in the publishers and studio executives, think that they can make some easy money while delivering the bare minimum if not the total opposite of what people ask for, and they wonder why them $100 million goose can't lay any eggs. Meanwhile, others are just putting out hits after hits simply by listening to their fans and delivering exactly what they want. Funny how that works, almost like it's gamers who buy the games, not investors. However, a multi-million-dollar mistake is often not one person's fault, but the entire system's. The 2020 lockdown was the biggest boost for the gaming industry, but also the start of its reckoning. Since everyone was stuck at home for at least 2 years, gaming was their only escape. Gaming saw some of the highest spikes in profit during that period, but just like any anomaly, you can't reliably recreate it. Instead of seeing these spikes as exceptions, game publishers treat them as baselines going forward. And since they're beholden to the investors, it means hiring more people and starting more projects with huge scopes. Except developing a hit game is not like making a car. They can't make good games by throwing people and money at the wall. Let's start with the first issue, team cohesion. Coordinating a huge workforce is not easy. In a recent GDC talk given by Will Shen and Darryl Breitner, both former Bethesda developers, they revealed that the bureaucracy and lack of clear direction severely hindered the development of Starfield. And Bethesda had around 450 employees as of November 2023. The line of communication between frontline devs and the directors were very convoluted. It was a miracle that Starfield was even finished at all. Will Shen, the mind behind the Far Harbor DLC of Fallout 4, had to take on the role of team manager instead of focusing on his real creative work. Personally, I think he did fantastically still, because the talk was really well done. Instead of having small flexible teams taking on great projects, these AAA studios went for bland but extremely expensive games with an artificially inflated workforce. So what if these devs have never worked together on something like this before? Give them a $100 million project. Surely nothing could go wrong, right? The most insidious part is that, regardless of the outcome of these projects, there will be layoff. If the game turns out well, time to slash the veteran devs and QA for the top brass to have their bonus. If the game flops, well, you know. The reason why Larian could make Baldur's Gate 3 was because they have been making the same genre of games for 25 years, slowly building up their talents so that one day they could undertake a Herculean task. They didn't grab a bunch of random developers off of LinkedIn and hand them a Game of the Year type project. That's just begging to fail, and a lot of these AAA companies ask for it. There's also the work culture component, namely the toxic positivity. In a recent Legendary Drops video, he interviewed a Ubisoft insider about their work environment, and to no one's surprise, it was bad. Same thing with Firefall Studio. No criticism was allowed, everyone walks on eggshell, and any creativity will be met with the full weight of HR. Not the last part was hyperbole, but you get my point. In an environment where any risk-taking is heavily scrutinized, people will play it safe. Innovation will be snuffed out in exchange for the beaten path, be it gameplay or story. Worst come to worst, just inject some modern day social issues into the story to shield it from any sort of real criticism. Now of course, woke is the easiest scapegoat when it comes to game critique, but I have to say, a lot of these Western games just don't have the ability to tackle sensitive cultural topics in a meaningful way. It comes off as condescending and insincere. This toxic attitude doesn't stay internally. Anytime the audience try to voice any concern or criticism, their opinions were disregarded. They're called toxic gamers, incels, talentless freaks, and even racist and fascist. Imagine that, using very emotionally charged rhetoric in discussions about moving pixels on a screen. Audacious stuff. And once in a while someone from the industry will give a woe is me speech about how hard their job is and how everyone is cheering their failure, even though they were the ones making the bad games. An uncoordinated workforce, toxic work culture, and an antagonistic relationship with fans sound just like the recipe to success for me. The last reason that the AAA gaming space is in the sorry state that it's in right now is the gaming audience. No, it's not our fault. Not like that anyway. Part of the real reason why AAA gaming is failing is because the audience has refused to settle for bad games. And they shouldn't. The world is not doing well financially, cost of living is rising, so people become more conscious of how they spend their money on entertainment. The indie and AA space is also having a phenomenal run, now that game making tools are becoming cheaper and more accessible. It feels like every month someone drops a game that could easily make it to people's top 5 list of the year. So the free market does what it does best, promoting good products and ignoring the bad ones. There's no need to buy the biggest games anymore, but a need to buy the good game that you want to play. Doesn't matter what it is, there might be something out there waiting for you. The audience has more choices than ever, and it should always be like this. While I'm talking about gaming audience, I have to briefly mention gaming journalism. For the last 10 years, all the big gaming news sites have been a glorified marketing department for these big publishers. By giving favorable coverage for their games despite their quality, these sites could remain in those publishers' good grace. Such access journalism is evident to see with the recent Dragon Age The Veilguard, or the corporate gaming news site unanimously gave the game 9 or 10 out of 10, ignoring the glaring issue with the story's quality and writing. I don't mean the woke aspects, pronouns are not even in the top 10s of what's wrong with this game. Coverage like that in the last 10 years have done irreversible damage to these sites' credibility and, more importantly, they damage the goodwill the audience have for the studios and publishers. If things keep going the way they are, I think we won't have to worry about gaming journalism much longer. Except for IGN, which is staying afloat, every other news site is pretty much at the bottom of the irrelevancy pit where they belong. As much fun as it is to point and laugh at the AAA space, I can't help but wonder how this part of the gaming industry would look like in the future. Based on how things are, I don't see any significant changes being made anytime soon. So it will likely be more layoffs, some companies will be bought out, some will shrink significantly. Overall, it's not looking very bright for them. But it's not like there's no way out. There was always a way out. I know this sounds cliche, but just make good games again. They did it before, that's how they got to the top of the industry. As bleak as things might seem for this space, I'm hopeful for the future. The audience has always been in the driver's seat of the gaming industry, and we're becoming more aware of it. I think in the last few years, gamers have made their voices heard with their wallet. The free market has spoken, and it demands high quality games made with passion and care, not some shallow products with predatory practices and half-baked activism. The current direction of the AAA gaming space is very destructive, and it has to course correct, otherwise it will actually collapse under its own weight, and gamers will not be there to bail them out from their own failure. This video is a bit unusual for my gaming content, but I've been having these thoughts for a while as a casual enjoyer of video games, so I thought I might share my opinion. Do you guys think there's hope in all of this for AAA gaming, or does it need a complete overhaul? Let me know your thoughts in the comment. If you like listening to my yapping, subscribe and check out this video, one of my best works yet. Anyway, I won't take up any more of your time. Have a good day and I'll see you in the next video.